Hello and welcome to another episode of Between the Covers. If you're watching for the first time, who am I? My name is Daniela Blechner. I am an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing. We work with authors from all over the world to help them to get their powerful messages and stories out there in the form of books. On the bookshelf behind me here are just some of the 350 plus books that we have published over the last 9 years. I'm absolutely passionate about providing a platform for unseen, unheard authors so they can have their voices heard and stories shared, so they can educate, inspire, empower, transform, entertain for generations to come. So I have an amazing guest today. Before I introduce my guest, I'm multitasking, trying to do two things at the same time. So if you don't know what the show is about, this show is called Between the Covers. Why is it called Between the Covers? What's that all about? Between the Covers is all about getting up close and personal, between the covers with authors, with people who work within the writing and publishing industry, to find out what goes on between the covers of writing, publishing and distributing a book that someone, well, yourself, can be proud of for generations to come. So who do I have with me today? Let me turn this music down. If you're watching, please do say hello, tap the screen. If you find this of value and worth, please do. How can you not find this of value and worth? Please do share this out. Let people know that this show is on. And also, again, this is very interactive. So if you have any questions, please do throw those questions up. I can see Tony's here ready to go. He says, let's go. Feel free. It's not just about me asking questions. You can ask questions to our guests. Also, you can, if you're watching on Facebook, actually, whether it's now or during the replay, you can support me by sending stars. Stars help me to create more content, but also I run storytelling workshops to try and reach people from communities that may not have the opportunity to write or publish a book. This is all self-funded, so all of these stars go towards helping run those projects. So Ashley Paris says, happy to be here today. Emeka making waves indeed. So now brings me to introduce my awesome and amazing guest. It's been a very, very busy second half of the year. I'm going to speak to an author who has published a book as a spoken word poet. This is called Too Outspoken, the sequel to his first poetry book, Outspoken. He goes by the name of True Colours, aka Emeka Ejiofor. He is, I'm going to read a little bit from the blurb here. True Colours debut, Outspoken set the stage. Now, the sequel to Outspoken breaks the mold, diving deeper, speaking louder and hitting harder. This is an electrifying symphony of truth and emotion that pushes boundaries. Let's have a look at the cover. Here we go. That pushes boundaries, ignites change, and rewrites the rules of poetic storytelling, delivered with empathy, fire, and precision. A little bit about True Colours before I bring him on. True Colours is centered on self-representation and authenticity, encouraging individuals to embrace cultural and personal differences and express their true selves. As a lifestyle brand, True Colours clothing serves as a medium for a message to show your true colours, SYTC, which is the brand's ethos. And we're going to find out more about that when we bring him on. Please do. I want to see some fire emojis going up and down, please. Please do say hello, tap the screen, and welcome the awesome and amazing True Colours.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's just crazy to hear yourself being introduced. But yeah, I'm honoured, flattered, and blessed to be here.
No problem. Loving the outfit already. So you're in from Derby, aren't you?
Yeah, Derby born and bred, Derby City Hospital to be precise.
In fact, I've seen. I was going to show another picture of you here. Let me bring that up with some of your clothing on. Hopefully, sorry, let me find it. Saying Derby boy. Let me just bring this up. I have to. Here we go. There you go.
Yeah. So this is my identity, you know. And funny enough, I didn't know you were going to bring that picture up, but I'm wearing Igbo boy. And
Exactly.
the reason being is obviously I identify for being a Derby boy and an Igbo boy and a Niger boy. So if for people who don't know, Igbo is like a southeastern tribe in Nigeria, and we speak Igbo. There's a lot of cultural background. There's a lot of how can I put it to a lot of the things that I grew up with, values, ethics, morals, and it stuck with me. Even though I was born in England, I'm Igbo at heart and through my blood. So I think it's good to represent it. And it's funny, yeah, but it's not funny. But there was something called the Biafran War, and I was in a pub uh, probably about a year ago, and this lady said next to me, "Oh, this guy's so scary, he looks like a Biafran," and it really went through me. But she didn't. I don't think she realised what she said and how she meant it. She didn't certainly didn't realise that I knew anything about that. She was a lot older. I never
Right.
heard that phrase before. But what it made me think was, wow, you know, these things are used as phrases, but at the same time, people don't know the history. So that's one of the
Mm.
reasons why I put these things on my top so people can ask questions, start conversations. What is Igbo?
Mm.
Because people say, "Do you speak Nigerian?" I say, "There's no such language."
No, there's many fractions.
Exactly, yeah. So Igbo is one of them, and the reason being because Britain put 52 states together and made it into one country called Nigeria, and we
Mm.
were the Biafrans who suffered from the civil war. So I wanted to represent. I think it's important, and that's part of the reason why I started this brand, just to
And
bring awareness.
I love that as well because I think it's congruent in terms of like your writing as well, because a lot of your writing is about identity as well
Yeah,
as stereotypical versions of identity. Because obviously, we're just going to dive straight into it here, aren't we? Black man living in Derby. I remember we had our first 20-minute consultation where you spoke about some of the challenges that you faced, and that being a huge reason behind why you started with your brand, but also Outspoken. Can you just speak a little bit about that experience for us?
yeah. The thing is, I always say this, and people think this is funny, but when I start some of my poetry, I always say I didn't realize I was black until I met white people. I don't know if this makes sense, but I
Yeah,
was never color was never a thing in my family. Culture was, heritage was, family was, treating people how you should be treated, treat people how you want to be treated was always spoken about, but color was never brought up in my family and my culture. So my parents never said you're black. What they said was, and my dad did say this to me once, he's like, when you are, he said this later on when I was a teenager, when you are black in this country, you have to try twice as hard, but I didn't understand it. Um, so one of the things yeah. So one of the things was I people say things like you're playing the race card, and I didn't even know what these things meant. So I'm like, where are these things coming from? Like, how can you accuse me of something that I didn't even know existed? How
yeah,
can you call me something that I didn't know that I was? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So my
100%.
dad was always like, I'll say, Dad, what does this mean? Emeka, go and look it up. Look it up. Go and look it up. He said, and those days was encyclopedia, dictionary. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I remember.
so there's no Google. So when you're looking up a word and it takes you about 10 minutes, you remember it. And so one of the things my dad was saying to me and my mum was question things. Don't just take things for what people say. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, we live in a society where media, where hearsay, where like news feeds feed people's minds, and they use what I call verbatim, just repeating what they've heard and not knowing about things. So one of the reasons why I wanted to write was yes to entertain, yes to express my poetical license, but the main thing was to be for it to be didactic so people could understand. Oh wow, I didn't get that. I've got like hopefully some of my mates are watching that I play football with who are predominantly white, and I've probably not shared most of this with them. And this is one of the reasons why I want them to watch it because the other thing is when you are black in a predominantly white world, it's
mm,
hard to tell people who've never experienced what you've experienced what it feels like.
yeah,
And at times you feel like you're burdening them by telling them because like, oh, not this again, or oh, that's a bit deep, and it's deep to them because they've never felt it. And so,
mm,
why I thought put it down in writing, write about it, and it's not the book is not just about racism, but it's
yeah,
about fairness, it's about equality, it's about being treated how you want to be treated. that's the whole point of this brand. So my thought was, sometimes when you speak to people or on the comment section, they holler back, you holler back, and it's just a back and forth. But
Mm,
now, if I put it in a book, I'm not there to argue with you. It's there
mm,
in black and white. You can read it when you want to read it or don't read it. But when you do read it, then maybe something will go in that maybe in conversation it wouldn't.
mm.
So that's why I think it's really important to, put it down on paper and like have it documented. So when I'm gone, it's still there. Comes a
Yeah.
legacy.
That's the powerful thing about books. Number one, you're expressing your experience, but you're opening up the pages to allow people to experience your experience through reading without feeling they have to say anything, by just experiencing your writing. And there's, again, I know you do spoken word poetry as well, so how is that medium different? Obviously writing, in terms of writing a book, but then actually performing and witnessing people hear you voice your truth and your message.
I'm glad you asked me that question because I have a bit of a dilemma because when I started writing, it wasn't for anybody. It was just getting things off my chest.
Yeah.
So I wrote how I felt or how I heard things, how I saw things. And then, I'd read it to some of my mates and they'd be like, that's pretty good. You need to, get this out there, perform. So when I performed, how can I explain it to you? I was writing, I was writing as though I was performing. Um, and then I had to learn to, right now I'm writing a book. Now, how does this translate how I want to say it, how I want the feeling to be, how people are going to get it? And luckily, somehow, I managed to find a medium of kind of spoken word with, with like written prose. And one of the things I keep getting from feedback is your poem's very rhythmic, but I don't realize. I just write how I feel it. I can't
Mm.
explain it. It's really strange, but I write how I feel it, and then I'll go over it and read it back, listen to it, and then imagine how other people would listen to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, and I can see that with, like, some of your, the words and phrases are bolded and they're underlined, emphasizing certain words, so you kind of have that rhythm in your mind as you're reading. So, in saying that, is there a poem that you'd like to share with us, so we can actually hear you read that poem?
Well,
That's a nice sort of segue into that, isn't it?
it is a nice little segue. Well, I am a. The funny thing is, even though I'm a poet, I'm quite shy. But like, because it's my own work, it makes it kind of even more. How can I put it to you? Just
Personal.
much more emotional for me. So what I thought about this, and I thought, well, I want to read something actually that I probably wouldn't normally read. So if I can find it for you,
All right,
um,
which poem is it? I'll jump to the contents.
yeah. Well, the thing is, I had it in my head before. It's called Bricks and Mortar, and it's
Okay, that's page 49.
yes, page 49. And the reason why I chose this is because um, sometimes when people hear about me, they just automatically think racism, racism, and that's it. But no, I'll say it again. It's about fairness. It's about what happens in life and the things that we don't talk about. Hence why I call it outspoken. A lot of things I hear, but you don't really hear them discussed in the public domain. They're in between. They're esoteric. They're you know in little groups, little. So I thought I want to write about something which I hear about a lot. Which, and before I go into it, it's called Bricks and Mortar, and it's for the simple fact that so many people are blood. So many people are close to you until money is involved, until property is involved, and then people change. So I thought it was a really important thing to write about and have it in this book so that I do mix up to show people it's about fairness across the board. It's not, and it's about ethics and morals. So if you don't mind, I will go into it.
Of course, I'm going to take myself out, so it's going to be you
Right.
coming to your audience.
I'm going to, yeah. Right, so now you're my audience. 1 second. I'm going to read Bricks and Mortar. They say blood is thicker than water, but not when it comes to bricks and mortar. Sorry, 1 second. I need to come a bit closer because I cannot
Okay.
see. I can't see without. This is what happens when you get a bit older, see. And I have to come in, I have to move it, as my dad would say, Emeka, you're blocking the light. So I'm moving towards the light now so I can actually read it. I was like, I can't
You
read that
need a
now.
head torch. Just do it while you're doing that. Rise and Conquer says the Igbo language is rhythmic. So, yeah, so that's maybe something that's deep within. When you're coming out, that rhythm comes out as you write.
Maybe. And that's beautiful as well because this is why I put it out there because I want to hear what other people think. Right, I'm going to go in now.
Okay, let me take myself out again.
Yes. Right. I'm going to read it this way now with the light. They say blood is thicker than water, but not when it comes to bricks and mortar. No time for son, mother, and daughter to breathe, let alone grieve. Thieves in plain sight, using the family name for selfish gain. Their only plight is to conquer and divide, get their share without care, it would seem. For the loss of a supposed loved one, where has all that love gone? Where has all that blood gone? They say blood is thicker than water, but not when it comes to bricks and mortar. No time for son, mother, and daughter to breathe, let alone grieve. One dies, one family comes, two tribes. One side wants to look after the family properly, while the other side wants hands on the family property, looking for the golden ticket to the lottery, not a tear in sight. Just fights. Who's having the car? Who's having the bike? Parents and siblings of the deceased. All they want is their peace, while the wife and children just want their peace. The line has been drawn in the sand. Now everyone knows where they stand. Parents and siblings want the upper hand, trying to leave the wife and children in no man's land. But that's not the plan. So they leave it in the calm of God's hands. They say blood is thicker than water, but not when it comes to bricks and mortar. Thank you.
If you're watching, I want to see those clicky fingers emojis. Hey. It's very interesting that you chose to read that poem because I've had two conversations with Nigerian friends over the last 2 weeks about something very, without obviously divulging, one of whom is writing a book, but about exactly that same thing. The pain and grief you feel when you've lost somebody, and then you have family in another country with another agenda.
Yeah,
Just thinking about the physical and the expectations on the person who lives in the UK as well during that time. So,
terrible. And the other thing is that what people don't realize is so many people that are affected down the line as well. Um, you know, next generations and stuff like that. And also the thing is, we have the reason why I wrote that poem because we have that saying, don't we? Blood is thick in the water. And I'm kind of trying to counteract these cliches because sometimes cliches are just cliches and they're not always facts because
mm,
blood is not always thick in the water as you know many people have seen, and so that's why I kind of use that in a repeat just to kind of change the narrative of the way people think. Stop using these cliches and phrases when it's not true. You know what blood is to me, what family is to me, is people that are just real and stay real from
yeah.
day one. And it doesn't matter if you're related to them and you've known them for all your life if those things are not the acts of a family. So that's why I thought it's important to write about those things. You know,
100%. And I think that I'm going to go to people's reactions. What did you think of that, everybody? I've got a few comments here. I'll highlight those in a second. Um, yeah, and those are very dangerous narratives, but they're family, blood's thicker than water. But what if that family is toxic? What if they're
exactly.
causing harm, you
Yeah,
know? So I
exactly.
think it's a brave poem and a very honest poem here.
Thank
Michelle
you.
saying powerful and so true. Michelle's also one of our poets, one of our authors too. So do connect with each other.
Amazing.
Uh,
Definitely.
Irvin's watching on LinkedIn. He says, brilliant work. Hello there, Irvin. Tony
Respect.
says, clap, clap. Nice. I think
I'll
we
do
want
it to Tony.
to. People are just people, regardless of being related.
Yeah,
Exactly. Sometimes a bit people who are not your family are your family, are your
yeah,
close
exactly.
people, your close
Exactly.
champions. So
Uh,
I think we should hear some more. What do you think? Do you wanna...
yeah, I don't mind, but I want to say one thing before we do. One of the things I was going to say is, it's interesting when you have a book or you have your own business and you've known people for years, and then you kind of realize, this person's not really got he's never, that person never supported me, never like come to any of my shows, never like watched anything. But the thing is, it doesn't make me bitter. It makes me be more determined to be successful, because what happens is when you are successful, then people go, I know him, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Trying to say, and they want to claim you then. And to me, it's like, be real. It's
yeah,
like, to me, I'd rather you go, yeah, I'm not coming, and don't come, as opposed to say, yeah, 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 and then I hear nothing from you or see nothing from you. So
yeah.
one of the reasons why I write is like, you know, again, I've had some people that are not family but have acted like family. Did you know what I'm trying to say? Much
100%.
more than some of my family, and not my personal immediate family, but I'm talking about in the past of things that I've had with people who know me very well. And how can I put it to you? I've seen how they've been dead close, they've become successful, and then the people that weren't kind of there, and now all of a sudden I'm your uncle, I'm your
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, yeah. Remember me? Yeah. You see it all the time with like even celebrities, whose parents or whoever in the family weren't around, and suddenly when they've made it, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember me. I'm your father."
Yeah. As Nigel, I know your father. Um, right, I'm going to find another one. You know what? I'm trying to. I want to read ones that are not too long as well, to bore the hell out of people.
No,
But
you're not going to bore. They're fantastic. But when you're on the Conscious Streams website, Conscious Streams Bookshop,
yeah,
Emeka's book was the one that's just been like fire every minute. It's like sale, 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 sale. So I mean,
yeah,
people are loving your book here.
that's
Kat says
amazing.
very true. Hello there, Kat.
Thank you,
Um,
Kat.
Rise and Conquer's giving some claps.
I
Ashley
love it.
says, especially when you live in the diaspora, family is created away from homeland in a special way.
Loving it. Heavyweight.
Heavyweight, says Tony.
I've
Brilliant.
lost a little bit of weight though. Um, Jokes. I'm going to sip this, yeah, and I found one. I want to read this one. I posted it on Instagram quite a while ago, because what a lot of people don't realize, if you've never written a book, is that sometimes some of the poems you write for the book, some of the poems you think that needs to go in the book. And
Yeah.
this White Wall of Silence was one that I wrote before I even thought about Too Outspoken, maybe. And I just thought this is perfect for it, because um, as I said, I've grown up in white spaces my whole life, and I have a lot of friends who are white, brown, black. That's not the issue, but the issue is being in spaces of whiteness where people don't understand how it feels to be othered or just so alone.
Yeah.
And just that bit of encouragement, that little bit of, yes, bro, you'll be all right. Are you okay? How does that
Mm,
feel? Or speaking up for you when the issue happens. Um,
100%.
it makes so much difference. But I wrote this because the silence is so much more deafening than, somebody thought it's horrible.
It
So
creates that isolation, makes it even worse, doesn't it? That loneliness and isolation, and even so, to cut you there, but even the statement of like, "Oh, I don't see color," is so
yeah,
dismissive, because we want you to see our color. We want you to see that
yeah,
everyone is different, everyone is unique, and why shouldn't my difference be celebrated? Why
exactly. Yeah,
also why should my challenges be ignored? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. And also, why should it even be an issue? Why should it be a thing? But
Mm.
so we call ourselves civilized, but I always think, how civilized are we when you can hate somebody just by the way they look? It's bizarre.
It's
So,
very bizarre.
just from a look. So I'm going to go into this now. Yeah, it's called White Wall of Silence. So bear with me, people. Hear your silence from a mile off. You witness injustice and you sly off. pretending you don't know it exists. Your silence is the reason it persists. Pretending you can't see it or hear it, like compliance is your gift. When I see people like you, my mood shifts. I see you're not moved. It's clear you don't give a shit. And that's what hurts. You're just not stirred. As long as you're okay, as long as you get paid, there is no way you're going to speak up. And that's why I don't want to know you or meet up with the likes of you. The irony is, if it was the other way round, I would fight for you. Thank you.
And how did it feel reading that?
I feel empowered when I read it. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if you felt it. I felt it when I read it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's something I've wanted to say to a million people, for my whole lifetime. And again, I'm gonna go back, and I want anyone who's listening to this. It's not about hating on white people. It's not about disliking white people. It's about being aware of whiteness and what it is like to be in whiteness when you are not white. And when something has happened and nobody's got your back, it's a lonely, lonely, lonely place. And I'll give you an example. If I've been in staff rooms where somebody's called somebody fat, and somebody's going, you can't say that. How dare you? This is disgraceful. Straight away, cool, well done. I've been in staff rooms where somebody's made a racist comment and it's absolute silence.
Wow.
And I got called. I was a teacher, and I got called the N-word by a student. And there was 4 other teachers in the class because it was a school of autism, and this kid was not on the top of the scale, by the way, because people like to make that excuse. People know what they're saying, regardless whatever you're, whatever's right or wrong with you. And he called me the N-word, and none of the teachers even batted an eye, and he's shouting it. No one batted an eyelid. And then one came up to me, the youngest one, after the school. She was like, Emeka, I heard it, and I'm so sorry that happened. And I said, why didn't you say anything? She went, I couldn't. And this is the story of my. But the thing is, when you tell people this, they don't want to hear it because it makes them feel uncomfortable, because a lot of people do this. So this is why I think put it in a poem, write it in a book, and then it's there. If you want to read it, I'm not telling you, I'm not putting it on you. I don't want you to feel awkward. I just want you to be aware of what it's like sometimes when you're in white spaces, black or brown person, or just non-English. It's not even about skin color. You can be foreign and be amongst English people, and they can make you feel outed. So I just wanted people to understand that, racism is more than just name calling and just silly insults and ignoring somebody. It's the unsaid sometimes. It's the unspoken. It's the not doing anything. It's the
Enabling.
Yeah. I always say empathy over apathy, but in a lot of these spaces, I've seen apathy over empathy. And so that's why I wanted to write about it. That's why.
And I can imagine. I mean, I haven't been in those spaces where. I mean, I have and I haven't. But I'm from London, and the spaces that I've been in mainly are more multicultural. I think growing up, maybe in my mid-school, high school was mainly white, so I understood and I felt what it was to be othered. I certainly feel what it's like to be othered in a particular industry when you're going to those events. But I haven't been in those situations where I've heard something that has been blatantly said that's been racist and gone unchallenged because maybe I've been there. Can you see what I mean? Or maybe there's too many of us built to say that. But I'm really trying to imagine how that must feel to be in those white spaces all the time, where that you have to see them each day and it becomes normalized. I think that is you do become just as bad as just as racist as the people saying the racist things by not saying anything.
Exactly.
I think. Gone.
And I think this is why people get so defensive when you mention these things, because I think it pricks the conscience of people who are not anti-racist. So I always say it's one thing not being racist, but are you actually anti-racist? Are you actually actively challenging people who say things around you or speak around you? Or if your child comes out with something, or you say something in front of your child, are you going to correct? You know what I'm trying to say? Are you going to correct yourself and say, "Sorry, I shouldn't say that," or are you just going to let it slide? And or I have a friend who is white English, and he says to me, "I don't like white people." I said, "You can't say that." Here's me as a black person telling a white person, "You cannot say that because you can't judge everybody."
Sorry.
By the but it's true though, because what I'm trying to say to you, people might listen to this thing. No, it's not about, again, I'll say it again, it's not about the individual white person. No, it's not. It's about a system. It's about the system and the effect of whiteness. So you might be in a circle, not even be aware of it, but you're saying certain things that really hurt because we've heard it a million times and you don't realize it. I've spoke before. I went to a football fancy dress thing, and two of the guys wanted to put. So one wanted to dress as B.A. Baracus, and the other one wanted to dress as Don King. And they asked me if they could black up, and I was the only black player in
I
the
can't
team.
believe in this day and age people actually think that that's okay.
This is what I'm going to tell you as well, because I'm embarrassed because I never pulled them up for this. This was in 2014, something like that. I was just finishing playing my football career and like end of like semi-pro career, and then they said to me, "Oh, do you mind?" One was the manager, assistant manager. One was a player, and one of my good mates, by the way. And I've spoke to him about this, by the way. So it's not I'm not
Yeah.
like trying to out the person, or it's not. I know he understood it now, but then I didn't have the guts to tell him no. So they said, okay now?" I said yes, because imagine I say no. They go, "Oh, I thought you were going to come as B.A. Baracus," and thinking, "Well, why didn't you come?" "Oh, because Mecca said, oh, bloody hell, so sensitive. These people
Yeah.
are so sensitive." And this is the mentality you get back. It's not like, "Oh, I get why you wouldn't do it because Mecca's, on the team." It's more like, "Oh, come on, you're part of the team. There's only a bit of banter." It's sort of
Yeah.
put back on you that you're the one who is. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You're the
100%.
one you're the one who has to be the better person, and just take it on the chin.
But
How many times?
But also the fact that the energy that goes into having to explain why that's not okay.
Exactly.
At the same time, being dismissed and being told you're sensitive. I can imagine, especially as a man as well, in that kind of environment where it's all, like you say, a bit of banter. I
Yeah.
can
And man
understand.
up, stop being a P word, all these things. You hear it a million times. Again, this is what I wrote about. I think I said it in Naaman about this thing about masculinity. What is masculinity like? So if I cry, I'm a P word. I'm soft. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Man up, stop being so soft. I'm glad that it's changing now, but the era I grew up in was, and this is for all guys, not it's not just a colour thing. This is what I'm trying to say to you. Equality is equality on all boundaries and all sectors. And I know a lot of lads, white, black, brown, who grew up in the same era, and it does affect you when you talk when you feel something and you can't cry,
Yeah.
or you know what I'm trying to say, you're
Boys
upset.
don't cry, man up. You're taught
Yeah,
that from day one, and that's why we have such a huge mental health crisis. With men, because you've got this suffering in silence, and
yeah,
I know that you talk a bit about this in your poems as well. You've got like a multifaceted themes, and I think
yeah,
themes that are important for people of all races, especially men, to really understand particular aspects around race, around justice, but also about the importance of being vulnerable and being able to speak
yeah.
your truth. And that's what I really like about your poems and your book and your message.
Thanks.
All
And
right.
it's one of the things that I wanted to get across without trying to be too like out there, but trying to go across topics that are kind of taboo, that are kind of we don't really chat about. And not just that, my mum is ridiculously observant, and I know I get a lot of that from her. And sometimes it's a curse. So I notice things that maybe other people don't notice. Do you know what I mean? Like behaviors and mannerisms and mindsets. And as a man, I've had to challenge myself about certain things, like my behaviors and my thought process. Just the first thing, "Oh, I bet that's a woman, I bet do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like you go into these because society, when you
Like,
hear things and it's male orientated, you tend to start using that language without realizing it. Woe
there's
betide.
like code switching depending on the
Exactly.
environment and the people that you're amongst.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why show your true colors is so important. It's like just be you wherever you are, what environment you're in, because your real people will accept you for you and whatever you look like. And I played for a team called, I hope some of them are watching, Little Over Dazzlers, yeah. And I'm writing a third book, by the way.
Brilliant.
It's called A Bit Brit, A Bit Niger. And it's like
Yeah.
autobiographical about basically my life. I've not told you, have I? Sorry.
No.
That's a next talk, though. That's a next talk because I'm coming back to you again.
Yeah.
But like so, and I've sent some excerpts to some of my mates in the team. And one of the things I said when I played for them, I never felt that I was black. I didn't feel I was white. I didn't feel I was. I just felt like I was a man. I was a guy. I just, and I said it in the book. Is that we had a 30-year reunion not so long ago, and I still feel as comfortable with them as ever. And they're all white, every single one of them. But I don't see them as white. They're just
Yeah.
my boys.
The people.
Because,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the point I'm trying to make to you. It's like, if you're going to make something of something and you're going to, like, I'll give you an example. So let's just say there's a rumble outside and these guys, all five of them are black. The talk is there's five black guys having a fight. If it's five white guys, there's five guys out there having a fight.
Yeah.
No mention of color. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And so, to me, what I'm trying to do is highlight how we're actually getting sucked in by the system and categorizing people when it's not even relevant to the story. Like someone said, I walked into this shop, yeah, and this Chinese guy was shouting dead loud. I was like, yeah, well, what's it got to do with him being Chinese?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was white, you wouldn't say this big white guy was shouting dead loud. You'd just say this guy. So I'm just trying to expose the fact that a lot of people who say you're playing the race card or this is, it's actually you who's doing it, but you don't realize it because your language is so there's no title for it. So we have Black History, and I've heard ask people say, why is it called Black History? I'm like, well, it's because yours is just called history. You don't put white in front of it because everyone I learned about was white when I was learning history at school. So what I'm trying to do is make people see the unseen that we kind of like get enveloped in without realizing it's a system. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, in terms of the sort of the Black history, I had similar. I have an event called Black Authors on the Rise, which is about a celebration of authors of African and Caribbean heritage, which I kind of prefer to say interchange between the two. But
Yeah,
the reason, and having to also explain over and over again, oh, why are you doing that? Why are you separating yourselves? I don't see colour. No, you don't see colour, but systemically,
yes,
we are not seen. Like you can
exactly.
throw stats at people, only 1% of main characters in children's books are, you've got black or brown characters. Therefore, we do need a space. We do need to amplify the voices until we get to a stage where we are just people, where we are just reading a book that happens to have a black character, and it's not
Yeah.
about them being black. And I think that is such an important bit to get to. Oh, hold on, we've got some comments here. Michelle says, yes, brave man. I think you missed
Thanks.
that. Oh, Ashley. Daniela, such a brilliant host, man, asking and highlighting the right things. This is brilliant. Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate that. Bless you. LinkedIn user, they know what they're doing. Yes, Danny. Okay, perfect.
What I want to say before I forget is like just off your point is that like when we just talk about mainstream movies and films, if you look at the top 100 gross films like from like Hollywood, do you know how many out of 100 are white males? Have a guess.
99.
Yeah, more or less. Well, it's 94, no, 96, and there's one black woman, and the rest are like non-white, basically. So you're thinking about that. These people are giving the image of what they think the world is to everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah.
that's a white man's image who doesn't even mix with black and brown people, but he's now portraying what he thinks black and brown people are. And then people who've never mixed with black and brown people think, oh, they must be like that.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of people don't realize, a lot of these things are they're going in subconsciously because you watch these things and there's a lot of white supremacy. Like I watched Tarzan as a kid. I was like, how is Tarzan
Right.
a white man in Africa in the jungle and he can speak to the the natives. He can
Doesn't make
speak
no
to
sense.
animals. He can beat everyone up. He's fast, he's strongest, doesn't get sunstroke, sunburn, and he's white.
As a black boy.
Yeah. Yeah, these things mind boggle me, and people don't question it or don't think anything of it. But this is what white supremacy is. People think white supremacy is going around putting your hand up and saluting Nazi sign. No, it's not. It's just portraying white people in the best possible light and the most powerful light in every situation.
Yeah.
And it goes into people's minds and affects the way people think and act to you. So hence why too outspoken.
That we need a little soundbite on that. I want to see hashtag too outspoken on here, please. I think that's a powerful thing. You know, when one person has all the power, they can create the narrative, and that narrative can be whatever they want it to be. You know,
Exactly.
who's the best, who's the most powerful,
Yeah.
how is this particular group of people portrayed, how is that particular group of people portrayed. And if you're not living in a grounded world and you're not around those people from those other groups, that's going to be your perception. So when you walk into a room, they're like, oh, I know that, you know what I mean? And then you feel like you're representing. Sometimes
Exactly.
you feel like you're representing all black people because you're the only person that they said. There's such a burden, it's such a pressure, and it's just so unnecessary, you know.
But I'm glad though that we're now allowed to start having these conversations, because I remember 10, 15 years ago, not a chat, you'd be shut down. You probably wouldn't have, you wouldn't even be able to have this now. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And more and more white people are opening them, and not just white people, people who do not suffer from systemic racism or oppression. I'm not just saying this about white, because it's not. It's about anybody who is not under the regime of systemic oppression. People are starting to understand more now. They're starting to get it more now. And I think George Floyd was a massive thing, sadly, of what happened, but I think it was a massive thing of people understanding, wow, this is real. It's not a joke thing, and it comes in so many different forms.
It opens up a lot of conversation, I felt, and a lot of uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
We were speaking off air, so if you're watching, if you have just tuned in, hello, I'm Daniela Blechner. I'm interviewing the awesome and amazing True Colours, author of Too Outspoken, his second book in his series, the Outspoken series. I was just about to ask a question and it's completely gone from my mind.
No, it's all good. Also, can I say something to you as well? I want to say thank you to you, because what you don't realize is you actually gave me a lot of confidence. Because obviously, you've written loads of books yourself. You're putting your soul out there. You're exposing your thoughts, and a lot of times, many people don't expose their thoughts, do they? To everybody. And what about anybody who picks that book up will get a little bit of me in there, right? And you gave me this confidence to do it. In like, I can't remember something I sent you. So you were like, bruh, you remember? But this is what I'm talking about. Cultural knowledge. You get it. It's from a cultural point of view. Do you get what I'm trying to say to you? So when I went to some English publishers, and when I say that, I mean white English, I got refused from a lot of them. The first poem is because you're black, of course, right? That's going to scare you, or you're going to go in there and go, right, okay, okay, all right, okay.
It's not commercial enough.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I got a lot, and sometimes nothing. But what I'm trying to say to you is thank you, because you gave me the opportunity and the space to like expand, and also be brave with it. I wasn't tapered. You kind of no, go for it. And that to me is what I needed to hear, because I don't think there's anything worse than being a poet and not being as expressive as you can be. And I think sometimes when you lack confidence, you draw back a little. Well, I do. I can't speak for anyone else. So I'm just want to say thanks for giving me that like motivation, that push, the kick up the backside, and check Ruby's emails.
Ruby's my lovely assistant. Check the email.
Yeah, Ruby, thank you so much as well. Because honestly, between you both, it's been amazing. Honestly, I've had a great journey, and the book is how I envisioned it, how I planned it in my head, and it kept like literally. I'm like, I want this, and this, exactly like this, and I'm like, this is even better than I wanted it to
It
be.
goes with the t-shirt as well, doesn't it? Look at
Black,
that.
listen, black and gold, gold and black.
Black
But
and gold, black and gold.
exactly. And to me, right, I wanted it to be a step up from Outspoken. Outspoken, well, I'm not going to use this over there, but I wanted it to be a step up visually, verbally, meaning. There's 5 years difference. I've grown, and I think as a poet, as a writer, the more you grow, the more experiences you have, and I think it expands my writing because I would have written a lot of these topics 5 years ago. No way. Um, but I just became thinking, well, sorry, you know what? You gave me the confidence to say, just go for it. So, thank you. And
That's the beautiful thing, about books is I'm quite a nosy person naturally, so that's why I love doing what I do. It's a pleasure for me to
fair enough.
read. It's like you are literally like diving into someone's brain, but also really like empathizing and just feeling what they're feeling as they're
Mm,
writing it and what their experience is. And I think like the world would be such a better and more beautiful place if we could all do that. I'm not saying read every single book from every single person in the world, but like
yeah,
just give someone a slice of their time to just get into their brain for a little bit to really
yeah,
understand what it's like in their lived experience in this world, as we all are trying to navigate it in this body, this kind of race we've been given, this culture that we have, and
perfect.
share it and find the commonalities. As well as the celebrate the differences as well. And I think that's what's beautiful about what I do, but also about your book in itself.
Mm,
And I hope that people do read it and they do get the message, and it makes them think. Um,
I hope
there's so
so.
many more
Really
questions,
do.
so many different aspects. We haven't even talked about sort of mental health in like that, because I know you do work in
Yeah,
terms of workshops as well.
yeah, yeah.
Tell us a little bit
That's,
about that as well.
yeah, so I do what's called SYTC workshop, Show Your True Colors, because again, my background is teaching, mentoring, I've been a counselor, youth worker, and one of the things I noticed in all of these things were how life skills, the in betweens, the nuanced language, the things that affected us were not really spoken about or kind of brushed over at schools and colleges and provisions. So I thought, and also, people suffering from racism, bullying, because what will happen is you'll be like, maybe one, you do not bully that person again, and they talk to them, and then that's it. But if you end up doing workshops where people are sat in and you're speaking to them one to one, and also you're not judging them, um, I think this is what a lot of people need more than just being told how you should be, because we're all different. We're all wired differently. I know what I was like at school. I had a short attention span. I just wanted to go out and play football on the field. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about studies, and my dad will tell you that. But then that's why he made me go to boarding school and like buck up a little bit. But like, what I'm trying to do is be the teacher that I wanted, be the educator that I wanted when I was at school. And that's to everybody.
Mm.
And the beautiful thing is when I go into schools, provisions, colleges, corporate companies, I get such great feedback. And one of the things I like to hear is, I never thought about that. That's one of the best things I love to hear from my workshops. When you said that, I never thought about that, because that's all I want to do is make you think outside the box a little bit. Outside the box. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I know it all. But what I am saying is this in itself is making me a better person, because if I'm asking other people to be better, I can't be saying that if I'm doing all sorts of madness. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint, and I'm work in progress. But these workshops help me as much as it helps them as well. It's not really daft, but it's kind of like therapeutic for me. It's cathartic, because if I'm saying to you to be anti-racist, anti-sexist, whatever, I have to be. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I can't be saying. But this is why I don't like politicians, because, and I'm not going
Do
to
as
go
I
to
say,
that
not
side.
as I do.
Yeah, exactly. And like you're telling people to go to war. Why don't you go to war then? Set the example. Go to war. Physically, Mr. Politician, go and put your helmet on.
Far
Go
too
on the
important.
front
I've
line.
got paperwork to do back here where you minions go out and find out, Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like lead by example. So why I'm doing these workshops is one, it is for a betterment of others, but it's a betterment for myself as well. And also, what people say is, oh yeah, because you're doing this, and if I do something bad, then they'll throw it back. Oh, now he's showing his true colors. But yeah, that is part of my true colors. My true colors doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't
Exactly.
mean you don't do bad things. It just means try and give the best version of you, and don't water it down to appease other people. Don't change who you are for other people. If it means being a better person to change, do that. But don't change your natural goodness for appeasing badness. So, like, people might watch it. Oh yeah, but he said this and he said this, but he's doing this. But at the end of the day, I am not perfect, and I've never said I was, and I'm not saying that everything I say is right and
It's how
true.
you deal with those imperfections. Like Michelle's on her book's called Perfectly Imperfect. None of us are perfect. But,
Exactly.
myself as well as a teacher, if I make a mistake, I relish in being able to pull a child aside or to say in front of the classroom, I've made a mistake. I'm really sorry. And to
Yeah.
take accountability that we're
Exactly.
we're going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up. And I'm probably going to mess up again. But it's how you deal and how you show them you deal with that, taking accountability and moving on.
You're very humble as well, because I'm saying this to you because even sometimes with your role, you've forgotten something, and the first thing you said is sorry, blah blah blah, apologize. Here's it, blah blah blah, and you're very it's not fake to me. It doesn't feel it. It's like you're genuine about it, and to me, I really appreciate it because you don't have to, and I know you're not doing it on purpose, but it's nice to have that humanity. Of we are not perfect, are we? We do make mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't condemn people for the mistakes, but if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, then it's not a mistake, is it? Then
Yeah.
it's deliberate. Then it's, do you get what I'm
Sure.
trying to do? It's a choice.
I could talk to you all day. This is a
Yeah,
great
no, sorry.
conversation. Thanks, Michelle. She's saying Danny is really fantastic and bringing out forth your dreams. Oh,
She
thank you.
is.
Tyson's one of our authors. He's also a primary school teacher and youth mentor too. You two should connect. His book is More Than Able, coming out on the 12th.
Respect.
About young children celebrating their differences. He says you must lead by example. Rise and Conquer says the students in Lewisham need to hear this on Tuesday. So you're going into school in
I
Lewisham, right?
I am, yes, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm doing a workshop on, again, anti-racism. But the funny thing is, this is now colorism, because it's a predominantly
That's what I was
northwest.
going to talk about when I forgot what I was going to say.
Ah,
Yes.
colorism is a big thing as well, and this is another thing that people don't understand. Um, you know, I hear black people making fun of people who are darker, sometimes lighter people making fun of dark people making fun of light people. Go outside, get in the sun, and this stems again from colonization, from
Yeah.
whites being the best, the brightest. And when the funny thing is, Daniela, when you mention these things, people go, "Oh, you're bringing up race again." But what people don't realize is we are so enveloped in it. We're so this history of Britain is so enveloped in racism.
Mm.
They don't realise that that's where the power, the conquering divide comes from. These phrases, these sayings we have.
Oh,
The
she has nice hair, the fine hair, and this, and oh, she has nice
Yeah,
colour, and that stems from the lighter you are, the more privileges you have. You're allowed in a
exactly.
house, or, and all of these things. We didn't create that. This was something that was invented during colonialism and slavery. That's been poisonously filtered down into our race. And we were speaking offline. This is what I was going to bring up about African versus Caribbean and some of the experiences, or Caribbean versus African, some of the experiences that you had in school. Are you okay to share a bit of that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. See, this is why I love doing workshops as well, because when I talk about these things, I talk about I've had it from all sides, and then the other thing is as well, my skin complexion. I got called Tango Orange Man. People still calling me up to this day. I love my skin complexion, by the way. I think it's beautiful. It's the best in the world. Right? And I got people mimicking me. Oh, you're not black enough. For me, you're not black enough, or you speak like a white person. From black people, this is as well. Um, and then when I was younger, obviously being of Nigerian Igbo heritage, I used to get called a Bushman, Zulu. You know what I mean? You got flies and all sorts of nonsense. But then perspective is another thing. When you look at what was shown on the news, it was Ethiopia, famine every day, showing
Yeah.
kids with flies on their faces, swollen bellies, and calling it Africa. Not saying
Africa is one country.
yeah, exactly,
So many people.
exactly. Like
Yeah,
so, you got one part of Ethiopia, and by the way, people don't realize how big Africa is. Lagos is bigger
exactly.
than England on its own, and that's just a city, right? So you're going. There's poverty there, and they're going Africa, poverty in Africa, 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 and so it's going into their minds as well. And then you've got a name like, and I'm just making this name up by the way, it's not anyone I know, Dean Smith, and you're black, right? And my name's Emeka Ejiofor. They were making fun of me for having an African name, and I was like, but you've got the names of slave masters.
Right name. Yeah, I know what I'd rather
But
have.
this is because I knew that from the Sunday school I used to go to. That's all, but a lot, some people didn't go. I'm watching something on the car, and he said, I learned this from Sunday school. And I did as well. And listening to Nas and watching Malcolm X, I just learned so many things, not from school, but I was like, well, you're called African Caribbean. There's a reason for that, you know?
Mm.
And that was back in the day. So it was hard to feel like part of anything. So I wasn't black enough for the black guy because there was hardly any African guys when I was growing up in that era. And the ones that were would pretend to be Caribbean. You know you about the
I can't. I can't.
Jafakers, they used to call them.
How
Jafakers.
do they pretend to be Caribbean? I don't know why I'm delving down this road. I'm just interested now. I mean, what?
Yeah, because like they would change their name. Say if they got like a name like mine, they would change it, anglicize it, and then go, "No, I'm not Jamaican, mate." It's,
Oh God, I can't. They have ackee and saltfish, right? Instead of a goosey soup.
exactly. But what I'm trying to say to you is that's how deep racism goes. That
Mm.
people want to deny their own heritage because people think of them as lesser than
Mm.
you. Imagine you say you're from a certain country and somebody says, "Oh my God, he's from there." And you know what's worse about it? None of these people have ever been to these countries who hate on it. So it's like, so you're literally going off what the media says. You're literally going off what the ideas you've got in your own head, and then you're literally going to say it to a person of a place you've never visited before. Can you believe that? So
Like,
I believe that Daniela, all these experiences have led me to write Outspoken, have led me to True Colours, have led me to do all these things because I just want to open people's minds. I don't want to fight with people. I don't want to argue with people. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're a bad person. And even if you're racist and even if you're homophobic, sexist, you can change and you can listen to people who've experienced things. If somebody's been abused, don't say to them, "Oh well, you'll be all right in a bit," because you don't know what that person's been through. Do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Look, I've heard it all.
Right.
It's just about that empathy. I say it again. I always say this. It's about empathy. It's about thinking, trying to think from another person's perspective. And again, we're not always going to get it right, but don't
Mm.
dismiss people for their lived experience. How can you get upset about me being called the N word? Or how can you be upset when she says all men are bees, but when she's been abused by 10 men? Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's
Yeah.
like, listen to why they're saying it. There's a reason. It's
Yeah.
not just verbatim. So,
And this is why it's so important, I feel, for so many of us to tell our stories. So it's not
yeah,
just one story; it's everyone's stories, so that we can understand, come to a place of understanding and empathy. Like you say, I think it's so important. But also, um, a wider, just thinking beyond ourselves and outside of our
exactly.
communities. I think is the only way we
Exactly.
can thrive.
When you go to a country, right, where nobody looks like you, nobody speaks your language, nobody is even addressing you, you realize how insignificant we are as human beings. And privilege a lot comes from being around having everything your way and the way people look, the way people speak, the way you expect people to act and behave. And when you are told that this is the way, the proper way, so let's give an example. They say the Queen's English or now the King's English. What does that mean? Like, where if you're from Newcastle, you're not going to be able to speak like somebody from,
Yeah,
Buckingham Palace, are you? Your accent, you should embrace your accent. You should embrace who you are from where you're from. Like I remember my friend said, there's a pundit is not on TV anymore. Well, he might Jermaine Genius, and he said, my friend is white English, and I've grown up with him for years. And he said, I don't like the way when Jermaine Genius is with black people, he speaks differently to when he does when he's on BBC. I said, because he's on BBC, you idiot. I'm like, he can't. That's what you call code switching. It's
Yeah.
adapting to a situation so that people don't say, "Oh, he's ghetto" or "he's this." So he's putting on a voice that is appeasing to the whole England and Britain, not just. So when he's really on a podcast where it's all black guys who he's grown up with, he's speaking in colloquialisms, he's speaking in pidgin English, and I said to him, bro, that's both of them. That's being British. That is part of what being British is. It's having those identities where you can merge them together. I'm this then, and I'm this then. See, my mum would be like, Emeka, you do that again. Oh, hello, how you doing? You okay?
And that is, I think, with that beauty of being able to, and everyone does it to an extent, but I think when you're of dual heritage, or when you are of living in Britain, but your parents are from different backgrounds, or you are able to adapt to your situation, and there's like a resilience there and a resourcefulness.
100%.
I would embrace that.
I think it's a superpower. I've said this before, and I'm saying it in this book that I'm writing, a bit Niger. Remember that title?
Yeah.
And I said in the book, it's like, actually, when I was younger, I was really like trying to just fit in, just trying to fit in with the Jamaicans, trying to fit in with the English boys, trying to fit in with the black boys, trying to just be something. But I wasn't trying to be me. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I realized as I got older, actually, it's pretty cool being yourself. It's pretty cool being yourself amongst all these other people that want to be like that. And I'm still comfortable in who I am. So I embrace it even more. I double down on it, And I think a lot of times people are scared to be who they really want to be. So they end up conforming. And then when you're different, they have a problem with it because they're not brave enough to be different.
And then break it down, you think, the sixth group of, let's say a group of 12 who are in this category, how many of them are actually that? How many of them are actually masking? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or actually is and something completely new and different. It's just it's insane. But Emeka, what is next for you? What are your plans apart from writing this next third book?
Yeah, well, the plan is I want to promote the heck out of this. Honestly, this is my goal right now because I'll tell you why. My heart and soul is in here, but not just this. I believe it's going to help a lot because people who know me know I'm a bit of I get on with everybody. Like, unless you're an absolute beep, I'm not getting on with it. But most people will tell you I'm quite amiable. So I hope they read this book and read it, remembering who's behind it. And then the people that don't know me will be reading this book with an open mind, thinking, I never thought about that. And that's all I want. So for me, this is it right now. But SYTC workshops is why I want to now become like multinational, because when I first started, schools was kind of scared. They didn't really want me being there, and because I'm going to make people feel uncomfortable. Now people are having conversations about, right, we need to get this in now. And not just the kids, by the way, staff need this a lot. And I've been a teacher, as I've said, and I've heard a lot of things in the staff room. And I always say one thing before I perform one track, and that is a teacher said to me, what's your name? I said, no. She went, how do you pronounce your name? I said, Emeka. She went, that's a weird name. I said, it's not.
Wow.
She said it's a weird. I said, it's not weird, it's Nigerian. She went, you're Nigerian. So how come you're here then? I said, what do you mean?
I can't.
Honestly, no, I'm not lying. This is a teacher who's been there for like 20 odd years. She went, so what are you doing here then? I said, what do you mean what am I doing here?
We're allowed to teach.
I know, but this is the mad thing.
You just landed here.
Yo, listen, it gets worse. She said,
sorry, I can't.
I said, I was born here. And she went, well, what about your parents then? I said, you're asking the wrong question. You should ask me why the British came to Nigeria.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this country in the first place. She went, what do you mean? I said, it's called colonization, the British Empire. And she went, What you on about? This is a teacher been there for 20 years.
Please don't tell me she's got history.
She didn't know, and I told her to Google this. She went home. The next day she saw me, she came back bright red. She went, Mecca, I'm so sorry I didn't know any of this. And I was like, you've been a teacher for 20 years. You didn't know about British Empire and the colonies. She went, I've heard of the British Empire, but I didn't know what they did. That's what she said. I was like, wow. So
I don't even know.
I thought I need to write. I need to write because I can't be having this conversation with everybody.
I'm now wondering how many. Is she just a one-off? Because
no,
this is something that's inherent in us because it is embedded in our background and why we are here. But the fact that I just wonder what she thought all this time then.
It's one of the reasons why I started SYTC workshops. I had to leave it because there was too much of that. Too much of it, and another culture clash came from when the teacher said to me, or when we did the class on trying different foods from different places, telling the kids we should do that. Then we come to the staff room, I get my food out, and the same teacher's like, what's that? It stinks. And I said, but I said, what? She said, yeah, it stinks. Well, the way I looked at her, she went, well, I don't mean it stinks, but it's very, and she went, pungent. I said, it's jollof rice. Right, and she goes, "What's that?" Anyway, I left the room and I wrote the poem "Culture Clash" in literally 5 minutes because I couldn't believe she said it to me, and I never ate in the staff room again because it just made me feel so awkward.
Of course,
but
you just don't say that to anybody, do you?
You'd be surprised. People are like, "Oh, that stinks," but again, this is a privileged mindset. It's like not thinking. You're only thinking from your fried chip smell or whatever you used to smell in your mouth. No seasoning, whatever, whatever bland crap you used to. But what I'm saying is that's what privilege does. When you smell something different or see something different or feel something different, you feel out of place instead of going, I need to find out what that is or what that language is or what the person's speaking. And again, I'm going to go back to it. It's why I do the workshops, because I think these things that are in between our mainstream topics are really important, because once people get an understanding and a knowledge of our history and where things stem from, it gives people more empathy then. It gives people more of a broader horizon to not just go, I call it one version immersing. I think I said it in one of my poems, one version immersing. In other words, that one version, you're immersed in it. That one version, and that's it. But when you hear something different, you're either averse to it because you believe what you heard was the truth. And now it's challenging your very, very viewpoint that you've never thought about. You've never thought anything different. And now I'm telling you something different and you're upset.
Yeah.
At me. Because I'm telling you something different. Do you get what I'm trying to say? 100%. Because you're questioning their very being, their beliefs all their life, because they've never had to think anything else.
Like, this is what I believe, even though no one's explicitly told me to believe this, and I haven't looked any further. Now I've been confronted with the truth of something. It's almost this guilt, even though it's not them, but it's this guilt and the shame, and the first reaction is to blame the person that's told them something that's different.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not having a go, mate.
I'm not having a go, you mate. I didn't create British Empire. Just
telling you it existed, and that's why I live in England, and my name's Emeka. So.
I'm sorry, and I know this is not funny, but it's just crazy. It's absolutely insane. And these people are educating our young people. Michelle says, "Don't take for granted that white people know their own history."
I know. I've seen that firsthand. I know that for a fact, and that's why it's beautiful. That's my brother, by the way, OC.
Hey, OC. Echo chamber mindset.
Hello, OC.
Cognitive dissonance, exactly, 100%.
Do you know all the comment sections? That's what I had to sort of stop going into them, because I used to think I'm draining my energy here because I'm talking to people who don't want to know. I use this saying a lot, but in our culture, we have a saying: to not know is bad, to not wish to know is worse. And the latter is a big problem in this country because people don't want to know. So right, I'm giving you an alternative now, and I'm giving you facts, but you still no. That's not true. But you just want to be right.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel better. But
I learned a long time ago, I think it's around 2020 with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, is I just disengage, because we've got to, again, mental health, you've got to protect your peace, you've got to protect
So
your
true.
mindset. You can drop the knowledge, you're not responsible for how someone reacts to you, you're not responsible for educating, you're not responsible for explaining, you don't need to re-explain, and you're not responsible for any kind of guilt or shame that they may feel.
Yeah.
You can only speak the truth and go about your business, because we don't have time for that.
Exactly. This one woman said, "Why are you trying to make white people guilty?" And I said, "Why?" She said, "Why are you trying to make white people feel guilty?" And I said, "If you feel guilty, that's on you. But don't try and talk for white people, because I'm not talking for black people. I'm talking for my lived experience. You can't speak for white people. You're speaking for yourself because you feel guilty because you probably do these things. It's like if somebody shouts, "Oh, dickhead," down the street, I'm not going to turn around because I'm not a dickhead. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But if I feel you're aiming at me, I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" And I think that's the racist people.
That's a great example.
Yeah, they kind of expose themselves by they're getting annoyed. Well, what's going to annoy you if you don't do it? You know, it's to me, it's just something that I believe that we need to have these conversations, Daniela. We need to be honest, and like shouldn't be a taboo. These things should be like you have certain problems, I have certain problems. Let's talk it out. We don't have to fight over it, and that's why I think poetry is a great medium.
100%. Nobody wants to live and have a difficult, challenging. I mean, maybe some people do. Everyone wants to have peace, I'd like to think. Right, this show was only supposed to be 45 minutes, so I think we need to have nearly an hour and 11 minutes. Who would like to have Emeka back? Let's see. I'm turning into a school teacher. Hands up.
Don't put me on blast because they're going to go, no.
Give us some fire emojis if you'd like to have Emeka back. Irvin saying, exactly. I was asked by a white person, educate me on race then. Oh, it's just that entitlement that they feel. Some people feel it's your position as that, other in the room, or the black person, or the Asian person, or even neurodiverse person. Educate me then.
Educate me, yeah.
Go and get into Google.
The flip is, I can't teach black history. I'm like, why? It's like me going, I can't teach all these girls because I'm a man. No, like you adapt. And also because it's got the word black on it, if you take black off, can you teach history? Yeah, I can teach history. So just let's put the history then. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will say this, it's like, and again, I'm gonna say it. This is, we understand as black and brown people, it's not every white person, because I don't want people to think, because the thing is, you always have to explain this. I know this.
Yeah.
I'm aware of this. We're very aware of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to coexist. But all we're saying is just pay attention, or all I'm saying is pay attention to what comes out of your mouth and what it actually means. And do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like,
and also know that you can be a very powerful ally. I have a lot of, I have lots of white friends, who are powerful allies. Powerful allies, and use that power, use your voice when needed. Even if it is just calling somebody out on something, that's the power you have. That when you're in those rooms that we might not be, we most likely won't be in those rooms where a lot of those things are going on. So very much respect and hats off to those people. Right, we do need to end here now. Matthew saying outstanding, fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed this interview. It's been absolutely really insightful speaking with you. And please do go out and get a copy of this book, To Outspoken. Don't just get one, get a couple of copies. Why not? You're an educator, buy a whole load for the libraries, and have it for the young people to read.
I know you people that know me out there.
Yeah,
I'm going to say this now. If you're watching, if you haven't bought it, get it. No, I've got love for you.
So you get it from the Conscious Strings bookshop. You can get signed copies directly from Emeka, the beautiful special edition quality, or you can go over to Amazon or any other good retailer and get your copy there as well. Available.
But this is the best version, though. Conscious
Strings
is the best version.
Exactly. It's personally signed from Emeka as well. And royalties are much better when you buy directly from authors. And can I just say, when you do buy a copy, please do leave a review, because it really helps authors.
Oh, yeah,
as well.
please, yes.
If you don't buy it from Amazon, you can still leave a review there as well. Anyway, any final words from you before we say bye to our audience?
Yeah, final words. Just one thank you to you again. Thanks to people who tuned in and took the time. But what I want to say, and I hope this will be on record as well, so it'll be on record, is that I started this for the betterment of everybody, not for me, not for monetary gain, not for wealth and fame. In fact, it's the total opposite. I just want to get the awareness of treating people how you want to be treated. It's about empathy over apathy, and it's just trying to think from other people's perspective. I'm learning as I go along, and I just want us to come together and let's have these honest conversations as well. If you've got things that you want to ask, just ask them and ask them. I always say it's not what you ask, it's the intention behind it. And if you really want to, yes, if you really want to, you can learn from us. So please tune into what I'm talking about on True Colours, SYTC Workshop, True Colours in Poetry. Check us out on Conscious Dreams Publishing, which is amazing. And the lovely Daniela. And I just want to say, just think about things that you say. And maybe if you ever get pulled up for something, don't get defensive. Just listen to what the person's trying to say to you, because actually the person's trying to educate you on something that you may not be aware of. So be grateful for it as opposed to defensive for it. That's all I'm trying to say. And that goes across the board. It's not just racism, sexism, anything, homophobia, transphobia. It doesn't matter. Treat people how you want to be treated. It's that simple. Have a great day. Show your true colours, and tell everyone about SYTC workshops and to Outspoken, obviously.
Beautiful, thank you. You need to have your own show, by the way. But everyone, thank you everyone for tuning in. Emeka stay here, so thank you everyone for tuning in. I am taking a break next week. I'll be back on the 24th with the awesome and amazing Lynette Sadler, who is republishing her book, Change is Coming, all about navigating the menopause with confidence. So tune in for that. Have a beautiful evening, people. Bye-bye.
Peace and love.